So today is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. It is 12:02 p.m. and this is the Board of Directors meeting for the Windham School District, and I'm calling the meeting to order. Is there anyone here for public comment? Okay, seeing none. Oh, my screen keeps jumping around on me. Oh, my goodness. There we go. Changes to the agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
This doesn't have to be today, but I had some feedback from a few community members that there still seems to be a lot of confusion about when we have school board meetings. And I wanted to see, I had an idea about that, and that can be, I know we've got other people and other things on the agenda, so it doesn't have to be today, but I did want to flag that.
Yeah, I thought it was on the on our website, like the Windham Town website. Am I wrong about that?
I don't, well, I was going to pull up my phone. That's silly. I wasn't sure if that had been updated or not. And I wondered about using the WCO list, as that's the only list that I know of for the town, to broadcast that, or I don't know if we're allowed to, but that was a thought.
I mean, I do have a list. Abby just asked me to send it out to folks, so I'm going to just send it through my school board list. But yeah, I think we need to figure out a process around this to make sure that everyone knows our meetings. They're every Tuesday or every second Tuesday at noon.
That is on the SU website. When you select the Windham School Board, it does say that right at the top before you even get into the buttons for minutes and agendas and all that. So
Okay, so but we're on changes to the agenda. Did we want to, Kate, discuss like was there just concern of knowing that information, or is there concern of like that should be changed?
If it's possible, I would like to add it to the agenda as something to discuss a little bit. I don't think that's going to take up too much time, but just
Sure. Well, so then let's add it to the agenda after we talk about for new business
yep.
for under school K through 6. Remind me if I for some reason go past that. So any other changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we can move on to new business. So we have Schoolhouse Updates. I believe Mr. Oettinger is on the call with us as well. Is that correct, Daniel? Because I'm trying to operate from my phone. There you are, Mark.
Yep.
So if you'd like to give us an update, that'd be wonderful. You have the floor.
Sure. Thank you. So pursuant to a vote of the Windham Town School District electorate, the decision was made by the electorate to sell the school building to the town for $1. The attorney who is representing the town is a guy named Bob Fisher. He and I have been in contact. I received a copy of the 2-page handwritten deed that went back. I can't remember when the building actually came into the hands of the district, but at that time, literally town clerks, one of the criteria was have good handwriting, because literally it's, endless sort of transcription. I produced a more modern type deed. I added the condition that the voters imposed, which is that if the town, upon receipt of the school building, does not use it for community purposes for a period of 5 years, that the building would revert, basically the ownership of the building would revert back to the town school district for $1. And so the town school district could do with that asset as it sees fit. Mr. Fisher has approved the deed that I drafted. He provided me today with the tax identification number of the town, which I need in order to do the transfer tax return. Anytime there's a sale, even if it's for $0 or $1, you have to file a transfer tax. My understanding of the transfer is that it's not going to be a taxable transfer, but we still have to file what's called an information return. I've been kind of out straight. I don't know if I've yet received the taxpayer identification number of the school district and the parcel ID. And so as soon as we have those two things, we're going to be finishing up the transfer tax return. Mr. Fisher and I have discussed the timing of the transaction, and we both feel, but this is not this is a client decision. We both feel that the most efficient thing to do would be to have the building transfer essentially at midnight on June 30th, in order that it be deemed to be entirely and for the entire 24-25 fiscal year under the ownership and under the responsibility of the school district, and then at the strike of midnight or whatever with the new fiscal year, it becomes a town building, and that means that the accountants and the auditors don't have to allocate expenses for the building, so it'll all be 24-25 would all be on the school district, 25-26 and beyond would all be on the town. So that's something that, I would defer to your accountants about, but I would be surprised if they disagreed. So it looks like the transfer is ready to go. I've shared copies of the draft deed with Abby. I don't know if she's had a chance yet. It was just, I think, this morning when I got the approval. I don't know if she's had a chance to circulate it to the other board members, but I think the transaction is pretty much ready to be concluded.
Cool.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mark.
You're welcome.
Now, is that something I can circulate it with the board? Do we motion to, what is it, I believe, like maybe have me sign or a representative of the board sign?
Yeah, the deed right now is set up for the board chair's signature, for Abby's signature, and I sort of questioned about that. Should it be all three? But I think that Abby's signature is sufficient, and Bob Fisher has not raised any concern about that. I think that this is the technical points that the lawyers have to sort of finish up are just that, they're technical. I don't think there's any dispute. There's no question about the price. There's no question about the terms. There's no question about the 5-year contingency. It might be worth circulating the deed for the purpose of looking at the contingency language, which is identical to the language that was passed by the electorate, but just so that all of the interested parties are comfortable with the idea that this building is supposed to serve community purposes for the next 5 years, and if it doesn't, you have the sort of the ability to essentially claw back the building at the $1 cost, and theoretically you could then sell it to the highest bidder, put the money in an account for the school district, and then you could do almost anything with that money, I suppose, as long as it was dedicated to education. You could reopen the building for school if the electorate were to approve it, or you could potentially buy down the tax rate over a period of years until your nest egg, that the nest egg that essentially is the value of the building, is used up. And some of you have been involved in conversations with me where I've told you that my personal feeling is that it behooves the school district to sell the building at fair market value, because the school district and the town are both municipalities. They happen to occupy the very same footprint, but they're separate municipalities and they're accounted for separately. But in the last 10 years or so, since I left the Agency of Education during the forced consolidation period of Acts 46 and 49, the Agency of Education has condoned the idea of selling buildings under these circumstances for $1. So as long as it's permissible for them, so be it. So that's sort of the report. And this is, to me at least, this is the culmination of a long process, a long political process, a long, attempt to try and, sort of go against the tide, go against the demographic realities that are pervading Vermont, especially the southern 4 counties, and that this is a happy solution. And I think your work essentially is done, and it's just a matter of finishing it up. And but I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. I do see Bob Tebow has his hand raised. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, just a question about the signature piece that you mentioned, Mark. Would it be wise for the board, even though there's already been an electorate vote, to have just a motion to direct Abby to sign when it's complete? so that there's something in the minutes reflecting that she's the lone signatory versus the other three. Does that make sense to you, or is that not necessary?
I don't think that I suppose it couldn't hurt. One of the things I would not want to do, or encourage you to do, is to sort of reopen Pandora's box. Because I know there was a lot of concern about, oh, it's not in the business, the school district should not be in the business of running community centers and that kind of thing. I would say that if you're going to have another vote to authorize Abby to be the signatory, it could just be a board vote as opposed to an electorate vote.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about putting it to the electorate.
Yeah, no. Just having it done so the board members,
Yep.
so it's in the minutes of this meeting that they've authorized her to do so as a solitary signer.
Yeah, I have no objection to that. That's a nice sort of dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I don't know that it's necessary from a legal standpoint. It may be desirable from I use this term in the only best of ways, a political standpoint and a public relations standpoint.
Okay, so Dan or Kate, would you like to motion for me to sign that?
I make a motion for Abby Pelton as board chair to sign the deed document as it stands.
And may I suggest that the language include the Vermont property transfer tax return, which is the other secondary document.
Did you get that, Meredith?
If necessary, if necessary. And I think it's all done electronically right now. So I don't know that an actual physical signature is even necessary. But I would withhold that signature until we have confirmation from me, based on my follow-up conversations with Bob Fisher, that okay, let's sign the document. Sign it now. I have no problem with you, Abby, printing off the version that you have and using that as an original to sign. I would recommend blue ink, even though, yes, we have color copiers now, so just because it's blue doesn't mean it's an original, but it's one additional step along the way.
You got it. So
unless there's anything else, do you need me further?
No, I don't think so. And Kate did make the motion, so moved, as I'm sure how Mark had worded that. Meredith, were you able to copy that information?
Yes.
Of course you would. You're amazing. Thank you, Meredith. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Fabulous.
I'm guessing that Dan seconded it.
Second.
There we go. Now nothing could possibly go wrong.
Absolutely not.
Kate and I are still healing from Mother's Day, probably. So,
we all are.
Yeah, I know, right? So, well, thank you so much, Mark, for your help. Enjoy the sunshine a little bit today, if you can.
Yeah, you too. Take care. Have a good meeting.
Thanks. Yes, you too.
Thank you for your due
everyone.
diligence. See you later.
Okay. Moving on. Update from Cathy. Is Cathy on here?
I do not see Cathy, so we might have to punt that.
Yep. I can speak a little bit for that. There's a meeting that'll be happening tomorrow evening with the committee to begin the process with the committee's meeting. So I guess we'll learn everyone that's going to be on that committee, and I'm sure either we can have a special meeting for an update for that, or be able to report out on that information at the next meeting. So unless Cathy hops on here for some reason, we can move along to, let's see, update contract transition discussion. I don't know if that's Bob, Heidi. Bob, I believe you said you were going to look into that at our last meeting.
Yeah, so that's linked to a document that I sent the board several weeks ago, which had the contact information for a lot of the vendors, the different things in the building that Greg had put together. So that's just, talking with Dan when we said this, I wanted to make sure you guys have an opportunity to talk about it. Greg is here for any questions. To make sure that's super clear. Everyone knows who's responsible, who has been managing it. Obviously, the town can do what they want with it, have different vendors, but that's just the list of the current and contact info as well. So that was really just something Greg put together for you guys, and we just want to make sure you had it and had the opportunity to ask him any questions before the transition.
Does anybody have any questions from that document?
Hmm.
Nope.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. You got to bear with me because this is a new phone and I'm using my agenda at the toggle back and forth here. And update on the transportation cost analysis. So
Yeah,
was
so
that
so Heidi, I think, shared something with you guys as well, the end of last week, maybe.
Last week, yeah.
With some description around what this is all coming about, the discussion about the revenue from West River, your actual cost for transportation that had been brought up in a previous meeting. We discussed, I think, maybe 2 different meetings. But anyways, Heidi has some info that she has shared with you guys for information, and didn't know if you had questions for her, but she is obviously here as well to answer questions.
so I don't have any of that the stuff that was sent. And I don't know if the other board members have questions, but can maybe Heidi, can you kind of reiterate what was sent?
Sure,
Would that be helpful?
Sure, I'll read the bullet points in the memo that I sent to all of you. First of all, there's no written agreement between West River Education School Board and the Windham School Board for how transportation is being handled. It was a verbal agreement, goes back well before Lori Garland's time as business manager. The reduction of the funds paid to Windham from West River was based on calculations that Lori prepared with Cord. It was based on the number of miles driven to transport the secondary students to Leland and Gray, and it was multiplied by the current IRS announced mileage rate at the time. Based on a conversation that I had with Greg and Cord a couple weeks ago, the daily round trip mileage to transport both students, elementary students to Townsend Elementary and the secondary students to Leland and Gray is 48 miles each day. Each day. So the current IRS mileage rate is 70 cents per mile. Based on the information, the current cost to transport to and from Townsend per day is $67.20. The current contract, I know this has been asked for with West River, that what West River Education District has with West River Transportation expires on June 30th, 2027, so 2 years from now. West River paid Windham $7,800 for the transportation this year for secondary students, and Windham received $11,874 from the AOE to reimburse their transportation of your elementary students. So it's about a $20,000 revenue that you've received this year. And then negotiations to change how this is handled would be dealt with between you as the Windham School Board and the West River Education Board. So, my suggestion would be that you would reach out to them, get on their agenda, and meet at a public meeting between the two of you to discuss what your thoughts are or the changes that you want to make.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
I have a question.
Michael, thank you. Go ahead.
Heidi, I was wondering if you could update us on the agreement between the West River Board and their current transportation in terms of how much they pay. Is it per student, per mile? And how does that compare to what we're as a district receiving?
When I looked over their contract, it doesn't break it down per student or per mile. They pay $467,000 a year for transportation of students in these particular places. And so it's not like this is how many students ride the bus. It's essentially like this is the routes that we're doing and this is how much. And then there's a cost increase based on, for each year. So there's no breakdown in the contract.
Okay. Are there any other questions? And if people don't mind, since I know we have Greg still on the call here, can we maybe, Bob, do on the previous one the same thing that Heidi just did? And if you guys, because I don't have my paperwork with me, I'm on the fly today. So can you maybe just reiterate what that was so that folks know what we were asking about and go from there?
Greg, do you want to do that? Or do you want me to?
Go ahead, Bob.
All right, hold on. Let me pull it up because just give me a second. All right. So,
Oh, I was just going to say thank you to Heidi. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Make sure you thank Heidi. So what Greg had laid out was the contracts contracts for contacts for the heating controls, which is the company and the person's name, the water operator, fire alarm annual testing, and the fire alarm monitoring, the asbestos management plan and how you go about doing that. And that'll be, that's a binder will be left up there. He describes who we've used for heating fuel, information about the playground and the annual maintenance, weekly inspections, and who was the installer, for certified safety reviews, and then the water operator name as well. And one of the key things about the water operation is that will have to be transferred from the ownership from the Windham School District to the town. And so there's a contact in there of how to go about doing that. And so anyways, that's all in there.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions from folks for Bob?
I have another one.
Go ahead, Michael.
Bob, would it be possible to have that information sent to the select board electronically, please?
The school board has it. So yeah, they can forward that along for sure.
Yes, we can get that forwarded to you. You, George, and Cord. Excellent. Okay. Any other questions for Bob on that?
Nope.
I muted before I tried to get to my next window here. Sorry about that. So, oh, and Bob, I guess you're up again for Superintendent Report.
Yeah, so you got my May cabinet report updates that you already have, and links to the super news. The main thing that continues to be that I continue to spend a lot of my time monitoring is the stuff in Montpelier. And if you haven't heard recently, if you haven't really been following it, I'll give you the 2-minute version. In essence, that the bill that the House Education Committee passed and was passed by the House went to the Senate. It was in the Senate Ed. It basically spent a week there. They fumbled around with it a little bit. Apologize for the editorial on how I described that, but that was told to me by a member of Senate Ed, and they decided that, you know what, the House Ed version was probably better, and so they just kicked it to Senate Finance, which is where it sits right now. Senate Finance has been reviewing some of the mechanisms around the funding formula, the foundation formula, weightings, sparsity weights, so on and so forth. And there's been models that have been crafted based on their calculations of where they are at the moment with that. And some of those models have been created by the Joint Fiscal Office as they're shared publicly as part of testimony. And so I had a chance to kind of take a peek under the hood at that to see how our districts and RSU would be impacted by that modeling, if there were changes in that way. Knowing that it's still in flux, knowing that nothing's been approved, knowing that it hasn't gone back to the House again yet, knowing that the governor hasn't signed it, like clearly there's a lot of steps in the middle of this. It'll probably end up in a committee of conference between the Senate and the House before the governor even sees it. But given all that, the first look under the hood of that Senate financial version was not pretty for any of the districts in the RSU, with the exception of Stratton. And everyone was standing to lose a pretty decent percent of money. So at any rate, that we don't know where it'll stand. I don't want you to panic about that. You guys have a very tight budget because it's just going to be tuition. So even your legal fees will go down dramatically because you're not going to be in the process of selling a building or anything. So it's going to be what's going to be for you guys. But anyway, so that's where we're at. And as soon as we know more, I'll update you guys. I would continue if you are not getting the VSBA weekly update. let me know. I can help you try to get that. But that's really a really pretty tight description of what's going on. They have updates all the time from their folks on the Hill. And yeah, so I'm monitoring that. I'm meeting with the legislators and I'm meeting with the VSA to get updates as well. So a lot happening, a lot unknown. Emily Long at last night's West River meeting, who's in the legislature, said that it's unpredictable where it could go. So, yep, we'll wait and see. I'll let you know when we know.
Excellent. Thank you, Bob. Any questions for Bob? Okay. See none. Let me get to my screen here. School K through 6 enrollment information. Our wonderful town clerk, Ellistrom, has worked with Sue with the SU, and they got all of the information necessary for enrollment loaded onto our town website. It looks as though we're going to have our first family that's going to be applying for their student to go to school, I believe, in Chester. So it'll be outside the SU. But we also have other independent schools, and all that information can now all be located at the town website. So big shout out to them and their hard work. That happened so quick. Very efficient day. I think Meredith even got minutes done in like a day that day too. You guys all got everything loaded and uploaded. Amazing. So just wanted to throw that out there, and we'll stay in collaboration with the town clerk and continue to put information on the town website, updating with things going on within our district. Are there any questions about that before I move on? Okay, don't see any hands. Kate, I'm assuming nobody's there with you, right?
No, just me.
Okay. And old business. Approve minutes from, does it say 4/8 and 4/15? I motion to approve the minutes from 4/8 and 4/15. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Daniel, are you?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Motion carries. Approve financial, I believe it's pay order 12. Heidi, can you give me the number for that, the dollar amount? Please.
Sure, it's $15,926.47.
Excellent. There were some bill bucks on that, but I think from what I could see, I was also pleased to see we have stipend for transportation stipend funds going out. So for folks who are potentially looking as to when that's coming through, once this is signed, it sounds like checks will be going to some families for that. So that's wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions or concerns or things we need to run by Heidi?
No, this may be a very new board member question, but is there some kind of breakdown of the billbacks besides as the one line item? Am I missing that somewhere?
I'm assuming you get the doc hub that has copies of everything behind it.
Oh, maybe that's okay. I'll have to.
Because there would be a purchase order and then there would be backup data for each of those things. Now, maybe there could be more backup data but I would want you to look at that and see, there's a listing of what the expenses are and where they go into what budget unit. But if you have more requests, I'm happy to follow through on whatever you're asking.
Okay. I think I just have to understand. That's just a learning curve for me. So that's fine. So no, I have no doubt that there's ample information. I just have to find it. So, but I will let you know.
Okay, please do anytime. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, I move to approve pay order 12 in the amount stated by Heidi. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Aye.
motion carries. And Let's see, approve policies. So we have 3 policies, D8, C8, and B3. D8, the selection of library materials policy. One of the things, and again, I apologize to everybody, I am on the fly today, so I don't have all of my stuff with me, so I'm going off my brain. What I didn't see in that policy, even though I completely understand how the process is that when it comes to the materials, like that there is clearly a process of how that goes through the superintendent down, but it's not clear as to how families are aware of that selection and what happens if, because we essentially give over by adopting this policy, we as the board are saying it's up to them, right? That's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. And so if there's a concern or if there's materials that parents have a challenge with, how does that process play out? Because I really didn't see that explained well in that policy. So I was wondering, maybe Bob, if you would mind taking a stab at that.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, the first part of this is that as of July 1st, when this policy becomes legally required, you guys won't have a library. So, like, for obvious reasons, like it's not really applying to you in the same way it does in other buildings. And I'll answer your part of the question as well, but because as parents, you'll have kids in other schools, because this was passed due to legislation change. But what that means, just sort of backtrack a little bit. So when I first started superintendent, Stratton we did a review of policies, and Stratton School Board had some missing required policies. So I had, on their dime, had inquired with the attorney about, hey, does a non-operational district still need to adopt required policies when it's clearly about something that doesn't pertain to them? Like in this case, a library for a school that doesn't exist. And the response we received from the attorney was, yeah, because the law says you have to. And it seems silly, and it seems like a waste of time, but you're in compliance with the law. No one's going to come after you if you're not in compliance with the law on this case because you don't have a school, but that's what they said. We advise you just to pass them anyways. So that being said, that's why we have this new one for you. This is a brand new one. And it does require, as you point out, it does designate the superintendent to develop procedures for how all this stuff works. And those procedures, I have a draft of that I'm working on, because obviously I have to do this for every single district. It's the same basic policies. It's a VSBA policy, model policy, vetted by their attorneys. So my procedure that I have is being built based on the American Librarians Association best practices around material selections and removal, and it includes, as this policy requires, a parental reconsideration approach, or a form to fill to if you have complaints. That form is also being developed, and part of that procedure that goes with this policy. Boards do not adopt the procedures, just the policies. Then the procedures are administrative. So those will be shared out as in schools through whatever processes that they use to share those out. So I don't know if that answers all of your question, Abby.
It does. Okay. I just,
great.
Knowing that we are now having families all over the place, and, we will be a point of contact and those types of, that type of information. So if we had families in Townsend that said, I have concerns about this material, we could then say this, you need to talk to the superintendent. They have a procedure. It tells the whole thing, and that will be outlined for parents.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. All right.
And just while you have me unmuted, this is the only new policy of the 3. The other 2 are updated templates from VSBA to policies you already have. Those it might seem weird to have a pupil privacy rights policy or a drug-free workplace policy. We don't have a workplace, but again, just that's what the attorney told us to do, and so that's what we're advising boards to do. Just update it.
Sure. Yeah. Michael Pelton, I see your hand raised.
Bob, I'm wondering if there is a part of the procedure that allows for parents to opt out of certain literature.
Well, so when you're talking about more like in an instructional setting, not a library per se.
Well, either or, I guess. If their students are participating in school, and if there's curriculum and or library materials that they're being provided access to. If a parent doesn't feel comfortable with something, is there some sort of mechanism that allows a parent to opt their child out of any of that stuff?
I mean, from a library, so let me start with library because that's what the policy is about. That's, you know, if a parent had an objection to their child looking at a particular book that was in the library, I think you'd have to work with the school to figure out a way to have that level of monitoring exist. I think it's, and that would be obviously more tightly controlled at the younger grades and would be more loosened as the kids get older for sure. When you're talking about like a textbook or a novel being used in an English class that might be controversial, that's more of a curriculum issue. And so that one you would communicate directly with the teacher and then the principal and then the superintendent if you had concerns about appropriateness of a book. And I can tell you from my experience as a principal, I only ever had one book that I ever had challenged by a parent in English class, and I was at high school, obviously, and that led to an alternative novel being provided for that family's child. And it meant the same, you know, the assignment could meet the same demands and the same skills from a different novel. So the teacher had no problem working around that for the family. So people are usually pretty reasonable about that if you're working with the teacher and the principal to have concerns shared.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I think that was probably answered a lot of the questions I had. So I move now. Is it okay if we do the one motion, Bob, with all three?
It is. I'm trying to remember, is this round 2 or round 1 for these for you guys?
I believe this is round 2.
So now you're
Right.
Was that a yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So you would be adopting, the motion would be to adopt these 3 policies at this time. They would become adopted. Yep.
Okay, so I move to adopt policy D8, the selection of library material policy, C8, pupil privacy and rights, and B3, alcohol and drug-free workplace policy. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. See, and I skipped it, Kate. I skipped it. We were supposed to talk about the date and time of the meetings.
After K through 6. That's true.
Yep, and I totally skipped you. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but well, let's get to it now.
Okay. It should be a quick. It looks like, because I got an email that came through that Dan, you had sent to your list, and then I saw a couple people jump on. So I wondered, could we send out a, much like we do the 48-hour notice, can we send it out, and that way the WCO could, because they often forward those two, and we might get more coverage for. Was just a thought. But Michael,
yeah, if they'd be willing to forward it, that's wonderful. Sure.
Okay.
Would you be willing to maybe do that? So when we get the agenda, that you can. Would you want to take on that task of sending the email out?
I can totally do that. If Dan, when do you? I know I saw that you sent it out. Could you do it when we get the agenda? Like Abby posts them. Could you forward it to, and then I'll get it because I'm on your list, and then I can forward it to Ellen. Does that work?
Sure. Or I can pass off, and I can also give you that list.
I can do that too. I could
if you want.
That. Okay. Well, it's yours to give. So if you'd like to give it, I will take it. If you would like to keep, that's your call. But I'm happy to do it if that's easier.
Cool.
Okay.
Or have an alternate, sort of deal.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It looks like there's 2 hands raised. I don't know how that works on your phone, Abby. If it's
sorry, I was on the wrong screen. So, Meredith, go ahead, Meredith.
Who were you looking to? I missed that part. Who are you sending the agenda out to, and when?
There's 2 different email lists in the town of Windham that I'm aware of. So one is a list that Dan Roth has for community members that are signed up for a school board posting, and then the Windham Community Organization is a second organization in Windham that forwards a lot of different emails, but they have a list as well. And so for crossover, to make sure we had more people with awareness, if Dan sends out or I send out one to the Windham School Board email list, we can have it echoed by another community organization. Since we all live on our phones anyway, it seems,
Definitely. And Michael Pelton, is that all you needed, Meredith? Were you all set, Meredith?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Michael Pelton.
The other thing I was going to recommend is that you send them to the town clerk's office. She could post the agenda on the website pretty easily. And the town is currently working on a town related email list because we, for a long time, were using the WCO list. But I think we're trying to get away from that because things kind of get confused, or were getting kind of confusing. So we're creating one that's specific for the town of Windham stuff. So I would recommend maybe asking B when she posts it onto the website to maybe send it out to the Windham town email listserv.
Okay. That's awesome.
B's a rock star.
She is.
She's just
No doubt.
amazing. Okay. So does that, and then we're clear that we're sticking with Tuesdays at noon,
Mm-hmm.
and that's working. Okay. So it is 12:42. I move to adjourn. A second.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? We're good. All right, guys. Next meeting is June something at noon.
Cool.
2 weeks from now is the 27th.
It is on the agenda too. At the bottom, it tells you the next meeting.
Then I have to swap screens again.
I wouldn't dare ask you.
It says June 10th, but I thought we met every 2 weeks. So that's why I wondered if it was the 27th.
Oh, no. Once a month.
Is it once a month?
Yep, once a
Yeah.
month, second Tuesday. Yep, so it'd be June
It's
10th.
because we have so many special meetings. It ends up seeming wonky, but the reality is once a month.
Welcome to this board.
Yeah. So, all right,
Unfortunately.
everyone. Thank you so much. Enjoy some of the sunshine, and I think we're good to go. See you guys all next month.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.